And I didn't have much money at the time, but I made him an offer. I mean, I'm a sales and marketing guy. Like, that's my background. Made him an offer, about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a home to buy 20 or 30 of them. They laughed at me, called me back in a month. So we'll take it.
Is there a sweet spot on number? Like, is it 30? Is it 50? Is it 200?
Man, I started back in the day in 2012, and the first park I did was 80 lots.
80?
80?
80 RV park.
I think you say like 10 or something.
But then the first mobile home park I did, it was funny the way I got into, I was in RV first. I got into mobile homes as a byproduct of the neighboring property next to me. It was 4.5 acres. It came up for sale. There was a little country farm home on there. Came up for sale, and I didn't want to have somebody buy that property, and it was a common fence line. I didn't want to buy the property and throw parties and scare off my tenants. So I said, man, I'm gonna buy that 4 acres and I'll just renovate the house. I'll rent the house, control the land. I got in, weird story, don't want to get down a rabbit hole, but got into mobile homes because of that 4 acres that popped up. I wanted to control my neighbor, okay? Then the oil field went from 125 a barrel back in 2012 to like 16, or I think 2016, it dropped about $25 a barrel. Then all of a sudden, all the mobile home companies, all the drillers, they have these man camps. They have all these mobile homes that they house their guys in. They're residential mobile homes, 3 and 4 bedroom mobile homes. I went and negotiated with them and bought these homes I bought homes that were worth $40,000 for $5,000 a piece. And I went to their yards and they had a sea of mobile homes. I mean, just all blocked up. And I went over there and I told him, I said, man, and I didn't have much money at the time, but I made him an offer. I mean, I'm a sales and marketing guy. Like, that's my background. Made him an offer, about $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 a home to buy 20 or 30 of them. They laughed at me, called me back in a month. So we'll take it. So that's how I got in the mobile home
And then they said,
business.
as long as you can move it.
You move your shit.
And you were like, oh, crap.
Yeah, so.
But then you didn't have anywhere to move them to.
And I then hired an engineer. I platted that land, went through all the platting process. Weird thing is, I do a lot of my stuff in major metros. This was right outside a major metro of San Antonio. So for this little dinky mobile home park, I still had to go through all the stuff that you'd have to do, like do a subdivision plat, like as if I was building a subdivision. So I did a subdivision plat, hired the engineer, had to hire a landscape architect. I'm like, I learned my lesson from my first park because it had tons of oak trees on it. And in San Antonio and any major metro, you're not allowed to just go start chopping trees down.
Mitigation.
You got to go through the mitigation process. And so I learned my lesson. So I looked at that 4.5 acres. I go, man, I could buy these mobile homes. I don't have a tree one on the property. But then I found out that if you don't have trees, they want you to plant trees on it. I'm like, fuck. I can't get this right. Like, there's no winning. So again, rabbit hole, but oil field tanked. They were liquidating their balance sheets. I capitalized on that, ended up owning the homes. And yeah, just.
You still own those today? Or,
I've sold, yeah.
Because I was going to say, the reason I ask is you've alluded to the fact that you don't want to own any of that crap. You just want the land.
No, yeah. And I've sold those. 2021 came around, cap rates are compressed. I had brokers knocking at my door. I built up 4 parks at that time. 4 parks were paid for. I owned all of these for free and clear myself. I've never had any LP partners until 2024, which is kind of how Tim and I met. He's been giving me advice on that side. But 2021 came around, cap rates are compressed. Brokers said, man, people want to buy these assets. I said, nah, go away. You know, they're cash flowing $200,000 each and paid for, and I had management running them. And then they gave me the offers when cap rates compressed and money was cheap, and I was like, fuck, let's go. And a week later, I had them all sold. So I sold 4 properties, and then life changes, right? Because then I turned from an operator that had a staff that had great cash flow to now then segueing into learning how to become a good steward of that capital, right? Like how to wealth preservation, tax strategy, and that's a whole nother rabbit hole. But I had to shift everything.
But it's important because when you bought these, it was all, and I've heard your story in long form. Mm-hmm. I mean, you were out there pushing a lawnmower, mowing these places. You were like meeting people and doing some of the construction work. And I don't think you even probably knew there was an exit, much less was thinking about it.
No, not at all.
And then there's this large number that had multiple commas in it. And you're like, okay, what am I going to do? You clearly figured out you knew how to do that, so keep doing that. Maybe talk about the shift in asset strategy. We'll leave the tax stuff out for someone with
What's
disclaimers. Huh?
What's that?
What? The tax stuff? Oh,
Yeah.
Just kidding.
what I don't
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
So,
I'm kidding.
Yeah, so I mean that, again, you're exactly right. Like without getting into my history, right, I had a sales and marketing company. I was successful, making really good money from the ages of like 19 when I dropped out of college to 30 years old. And when I was 30, I'm like, man, I was in a transactional business. I was driving a Porsche, wearing a suit, thought I was the king of the castle, and had my first son at 30. Said, man, I don't want to be working 80 hours a week in a transactional business where if I'm not grinding and my sales guys aren't cranking, I'm not making money. If I go on vacation, sales dip. And so that's how I got into this side. But yeah, when I sold those in 21, it was just, shifting the strategy on, like you said, it was the difference of being an operator versus learning how to, or what's the old saying, not working in the business, but working on the business, right? Like I had to go and then sharpen my axe on the tax strategy. I didn't understand leverage at the time, man. Remember, when I left transactional in 2012, marketing and sales, all I gave a shit about is having recurring revenue. And I had built that.
Well, you were just using your own cash to do it, right?
Yeah,
like you'd saved up some money and...
I bootstrapped the hell out of number one. I did, to your point, without getting into that, bootstrapped the hell out of number one, was wearing a Porsche, sold the Porsche, bought an old Chevy Tahoe, took out a home equity loan, borrowed money, and I was the maintenance guy. I did mow the grass. I cleared the land. A buddy and I, the first park, we had 2 chainsaws. It took us months to clear the land. I mean, it was 11 acres. We had 2 chainsaws, and I'm not a handy guy. I mean, you pointed out very frankly that I don't look like a guy that would be running I'm not a lumberjack, but.
I didn't say that. I was just alluding to the fact that typically in your line of business, it's more of the Corey Thompsons, who is a client and a friend.
Yeah.
Who's very rednecky.
rednecky.
Yeah.
That's a good word.
So to fast forward now, cap rates were really compressed in 21. Mm-hmm. They are not anymore.
No.
Are you now thinking build these while they are not compressed, time it for when they get compressed again, and just exit again?
Yeah, so the strategy right now, we've started acquiring a lot of these mom and pop, and really, so we're acquiring existing parks and we're building parks. In my older age, being 43, like I had a lot more energy and a lot more time. I didn't have 2 kids, and all of this other stuff going on. So I could do all of that back then. Now, acquiring is the fastest way for me to scale. We've got, as you know, I think we've closed on a park in Lake Travis in Austin. A few weeks ago, we've got 2 more that we close on in another month. They're all fully funded, cash is ready to roll. We're developing one of those parks, and then I'm also expanding some other ones there. So to your question is, yeah, we're foot on the gas as far as acquisitions because of our creative strategy. I mean, we're vertically integrated. We go directly to sellers. I don't buy anything on market. I've never bought anything on market. And so we're going direct to sellers. We're negotiating extremely good terms, owner carry terms. We're negotiating interest only. Generally, it's a 5-year IO. Max I'll pay on interest right now. So when most people are sitting on the sideline in the multifamily world, I'm buying these assets, I think it'll be $4 million, $5 million assets at 4%, 5% interest with 20 to 30% down. And I'm also negotiating an interest-only period for that 5-year IO, so it increases our cash flow out of the gates. We're able to pay cash flow distributions to our LPs out of the gates day one, within 30 days. And again, to your point there, yeah, cap rates are, not compressed right now, right. But the terms we're negotiating, it will work out for us when things shift.
When you're raising funds, are you raising funds for like per investment per park, or are you putting the fund together and be like, hey, this fund is going to go out and buy as many as possible?
Yeah, that will be the evolution right now. And again, Tim's helped me out with this, that right now 24 is the first time I've ever taken $1 from any outside capital.
Yeah.
And so, recently right now we've got about $10 million, over $10 million in the past couple of months that we've raised. Deal specific though. Yeah. So everything is deal specific. I think I'll go after the fund model and look at that the biggest thing is for me is, once you have that fund, you have that capital, right? You're chasing yield. And I don't want to be stressed to deploy capital just to chase yield. And I'm not, by all means, I'm not very experienced with funds, but I know if I have that money, people are wanting a return on that money out of the gates.